Today is going to be just a little bit different because we are focused on what comes before you lead your team. We are focused on what comes before you are a great leader to other people, and that is being a great leader for yourself. I couldn't tell you how many DMs and emails I get from people that say things like, I know I have more to offer. I know this isn't the right spot for me, but I don't even know what else I could do. Or they say, I have this vision of where I could be. I know the role that I want to be in, but I have no idea how to get there. Those are two very distinct camps. And first, if you are in either one of those spots, I just want to encourage you. I just want to send you a little bit of love and reinforcement because you are focusing on leading yourself. You are focusing on taking yourself to the next level. And you know that that needs to happen before you are the best version of yourself to lead your team to be the best version of their selves, right? Themselves. But you are focused on what it takes to lead yourself well first. And you're recognizing that you're not quite there yet. So, I want to address these two different camps for just a second. The first one, where you're like, look, this isn't it, but I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what that next step is for me. I have a super quick solution for you that I want you to try, okay? It is called the Pitch Perfect Career Path Quiz. I get that question so often, and I hear it with this angst and frustration and sadness, honestly, from people that I wanted there to be something that you could find a solution in 2 minutes. So that is why I developed this quiz that points you in the direction of your perfect career path with these ideas on different jobs, specific job titles that would fall into those career paths that could suit you best. So it'll ask you questions about what you do best, what you enjoy doing, and then give you some ideas on where to go with that. So if you are in that camp, if you are totally at a loss for what the next step might be for you, I want you to check out that quiz. So go down to the show notes and click that link so that you can get access to that Pitch Perfect career path quiz for yourself. The rest of today is for those of you who know. So if you didn't know, hit pause on the video, go take that Pitch Perfect career path quiz, and then come back to us. And we are going to talk about what steps you can take today to make a difference because I'm not going to send you down this long education road. I'm not going to say that you should put your ideal career, your dream job on some sort of like 5-year plan. We want you to be leading yourself and the best version of yourself today. Like now, right now. Okay? So that's what we're going to focus on. I am going to give you 3 steps that you can take right now. You can get started on after you close out this video so that you can do just that. So, once you are clear on your next step, you're going to have a problem, right? You have this fear that creeps in. And it's not going to be the same type of fear as when you watch that first very scary movie, right? The first time I watched I Know What You Did Last Summer, I was terrified constantly that there was like some hooked murderer reaping around every corner. But this is a different kind of fear. This is a more insidious type of fear. This is a fear that shows up as questions. Things like, how long is this going to take? Would I even have the time or the energy to make this happen? Now that I know that this new career, this new promotion, this new complete industry change is where it's at for me, how am I going to do it? And how do I do it completely on my own? So many of us feel alone, and that fear creeps in to just isolate us even more. Well, that fear is trying to keep you safe. And it's something that you can do something about. We want the fear to try and keep us safe, right? This isn't a bad thing. Those questions are valid. And you can respect the fact that you have that fear and the fact that your brain is working to protect you and still move forward. Courage answers those questions with action. Now, this is a little side note here. I have some anxieties in my life. I think most of us do, right? And we all have a little bit different coping mechanism to handle those. And for me, it's how does this play out? That's literally the question I ask myself because that's what my anxiety is already prompting me to do. How is this going to play out? Is what causes anxiety. But it's failing to answer that question that really leads to all the fear, right? So, what I do is answer it. Okay, so if I have this fear of taking the next step in my career, getting that promotion, and not being ready for it, falling flat on my face, making a terrible mistake, what's the worst case scenario? Maybe I have to find a new job. Maybe I even get demoted to the role I was in before. That would be embarrassing. But I could handle that. I could move on from that. Maybe it's completely changing industries. Maybe it's finding these new friends, new connections. And that could be scary. That could be intimidating. I don't know that I would know where to start, but I could figure it out. I've made new friends before, I've made connections before. So today we're going to use that lens. We're going to use the lens of how does this all play out to answer those fears and take back control so that you can move forward in the next step of your career. So, if you are someone who knows where you're going, you have heard those fears in the back of your head, and now you're like, okay, I know the destination, I know where I'm going, but I need a map. So, you know that you are working towards the next step in your career, whatever that means for you, right? Maybe it's more money, maybe it's more influence, maybe it's more autonomy in your work. And that's great. But now I want you to get specific. Maybe it's as specific as getting the job, finding the job that has the specific title from that Pitch Perfect career path quiz. Maybe it's learning what it would really take to get yourself into that role, to go from some crazy level of maybe it's teacher to nurse. Maybe it's individual contributor to CEO. What would it actually take to get there? How does this all play out? Now, you might know the logistics, like you're considering a promotion that's above your current role, right? And you need to define what those mores are to you. So, what do those mores really mean? Those more money, more autonomy, more freedom. How much more money do you want to make in the next year, in the next 5 years? How much would it take to take that annual family vacation that you actually want to take, that you dream of seeing Mickey Mouse with your kids, right? Who would you need to influence to get free reign on that project that has been rolling around in the back of your head forever? What sort of level do you need to be at? What sort of title do you need to be at to have that influence? It's these sort of questions, these real, specific, hard hitting questions that are going to help you to prepare for that next step that takes you exactly where you want to go. Okay, so we are getting into the 3 steps now that you actually need to take. Now, before we jump in, I just want you to allow yourself to play with the ideas. When that fear creeps in that says, yeah, but how would I either set it to the side? Thank you very much, brain. Set it to the side or answer it. Better yet, make a note of how you're going to answer it. You may not know the answer right in this moment, and that's okay. So, the first thing we're going to do is to understand. The first step just creates this foundation for your professional development, for your next step. And that is to understand what it would take. Now your fear's already like, yeah, that's the problem. I don't know. Right. Now we are going to consider this development, this next step from two different perspectives, right? The first one is, what does the employer need from this role? What are they expecting? What skills do they need to see? What deliverables and outcomes are they expecting from this role? And honestly, if your brain is panicking a little bit about that, this is really easy to put to rest, right? How can we figure this out? Simple. We're going to look it up. Just look it up. Go on LinkedIn, go on Monster, go on Career Builder, go on these job sites, on these job boards, and just search it up. It doesn't have to be the exact perfect role that you're looking for. It doesn't even have to be in your general location or offer all of the perks that you wanted. We're just trying to get an understanding of what the employer is looking for. Honestly, I would look at it from as many different perspectives, as many different industries. Say you're looking at something like HR, you want to be an HR manager. You're currently helping in recruiting and you want to move up to that leadership level within that division. Look at all of the industries, look at all of the locations, look at all of the different types of work that could fall into an HR manager. Look it up, find the similarities, find the differences. Maybe you find out that what you really want is to be part of an HR role or an HR division that's in IT startup, right? You really like insure tech. Cool. That's awesome. What a great thing for you to figure out. And now you can compare all of these things, maybe even throw it into Chat GPT and look for the similarities that way. Speed things up for yourself a little bit, right? This is something we want to be able to start today. And then look for like the common themes, right? Those are really important indicators of you understanding what this role is going to require going forward, right? Okay, but I said we're looking at it from two perspectives. So the other one would be, what are your values? Now, remember we talked about those mores, right? We need to understand what you need more of. Does this role, does this HR manager role give you the salary that you need to be able to take those vacations that you wanted to take? Does it allow you the time flexibility that you want to, pick your kids up from school every day? Maybe you want to work from home. You need to do the research on yourself. You need to find out what you need and do some reflection there. If you are really unsure about what is important to you, Aligned Ambitions is a masterclass. It's about an hour long, so you have to dedicate some time to actually doing the reflections for yourself. But I'll leave the link to that below as well, and you can jump in and really understand what is important to you. It helps you understand the values and the themes underneath the surface level of where you thought you should be going. Okay. Now, as you are putting this together, right? As you're looking up the job as itself, you're understanding your own values, you are going to realize that there are some questions you can't answer. You're not exactly sure, for example, if the company is going to give you the flexibility that you want. Do they really support families the way you want them to support families? There's two ways you can figure this out. One, you can look for clues in those job descriptions. So, does it offer family days? Is that part of their benefits package? Those type of things where you have like a vacation day as a company and you all go to Six Flags together and all of your family is invited. There are companies who offer these, okay? Now, maybe you don't actually plan to use those, but from the fact that the company is offering them that their values align with your values. So you can do some sleuth work as you are looking up the job, as you're looking up the company, and see if they align with your values. Now, the other thing that you can do is to find connections. I know what you're thinking. This is a new industry. This is a new expectation. I don't actually know anybody who works in this role. Well, hey, you are only 6 degrees away, right? 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We are going to find people who know people. And just asking the questions will help you get closer than you really even realized you could. That fear is going to jump in and going to tell you that you don't know anybody, you don't have any connections there, and there's nothing more you can do. Shut your laptop and go home. But if you push past it, social media is definitely helpful for a few things. And so if you can put in the role that you want into LinkedIn and find some companies that sound a little bit interesting, it'll show you connections that you already have or people who are only one or two people away from you that you can get in touch with. Start talking to the people you know that are closer to the role you want, even if they're not in the exact thing that you want to be doing. You can develop a list of questions. You can ask them about the role that you want to be in, the values that you have, and you can get an idea from people who are actually living it every single day. And again, before that fear decides to jump in and stop you and have you eating ice cream instead of actually moving toward what you want, remember that people love sharing their story. They love sharing their experiences. And making these connections is going to serve both of you, and they will actually enjoy it too. All right. The next step is to evaluate. I hope you are realizing that you could do both of these things today. You could be on step 2 of a 3-step process today, my friend. Once you have gained some clarity, once you have an understanding of where you're going and what it will actually take to get there, it's time to figure out how you bridge that gap, right? You need to know what you're doing now and how it pertains to what you want to be doing in the future. And again, that fear is going to jump in and say, well, you couldn't possibly do anything else. You've been doing this one thing forever. You've been working in sales forever. How could you possibly move into IT? How could you possibly go and be a teacher after all of your education and all of your years of experience are over in healthcare? Now, the best way to understand this is to look at developing and growing in your strengths. Leaning into your strength allows you to make progress quickly on any new venture. And that means you can demonstrate your experience and your expertise, even if you're working in a completely new field, even if you're working in a completely new industry, which is actually how I showcased my ability to reduce missed time from work for a plumber based on my experience in running a drive-in diner. Now, you can start to understand your strengths by digging into strengths based leadership. That book will give you an assessment that shows you what your strengths are and gives you some ideas on how you can best utilize them. Now, my top strength in strengths based leadership is activator. Understanding that action is the best way for me to learn allowed me to get up to speed incredibly quickly when I started managing a restaurant. I went from waiting the tables, picnic tables, mind you, and I jumped into scheduling and ordering. And I needed to do it with the same enthusiasm that I had for the customers that I was seeing on, a daily, hourly basis. But I learned from every win and I learned from every mistake along the way. And I took that same initiative into adjusting workers' comp claims. Now, if I could activate myself and 20 employees that were anywhere from preteen girls to a middle aged dad, I could activate someone who had strained their back and needed to get back to light duty, right? I simply had to evaluate how my existing experience enhanced my ability to do the new work. Now, That can sound very, I don't know, very big, right? That can sound like, okay, sure, Kelly, you were able to do that. But that is honestly what understanding your strengths can do for anyone. Gallup has helped millions of people figure out their own strengths through StrengthsFinder and strengths based leadership. And I use these tools personally for myself and also with every single coaching client that I work with. It allows them to see more clearly the talents that they are probably taking for granted. Even traits that you thought were holding you back can actually turn into strengths that can propel you forward, which really means you can go from working nights and weekends trying to change yourself in secret and in shame to actually accomplishing every task you need to accomplish before 3 p.m. In coaching, Megan found out that she was talented in deliberative. And that means that she took great care in making decisions. And she actually rolled her eyes at me when she saw that result because she was always taught that taking a long time to make decisions was awful. She thought that leadership meant that you were a quick thinker. She thought that she needed to be taking action quicker and she needed to be basically making decisions before she had all of the information she needed. But it just didn't describe her. So she had started to write herself off as ever being able to move into a leadership role. Megan thought that leaders were supposed to think quick and take action quicker, but that just didn't describe her. Where some leaders were shooting from the hip and diving in head first, me, case in point, Megan was thinking through all of the impacts of every single decision. And with coaching, she was able to lead through this strength. When she thought of it as a weakness, she was hiding herself away. She was spending all of her time doing her own research so that she could pretend to be something that she wasn't. But when she embraced deliberation as a strength in leadership, then she was able to set a meeting, draw out all the wisdom from her team, and then they could carefully deliberate it together in their 2 p.m. huddle. And then she was just able to move on with the rest of her day. No more open loop going in her brain. And getting that work life balance from embracing the methodical thinking that you know you have, that's what you want, right? So when you understand your strengths and you are able to use them to evaluate what you understand about the work, you can bring these values down here. Your values then are supported by your strengths. Are you seeing this? So this is the brain, right? So this is sorry. This is brain. This is my brainstem. So this is you thinking all of the things to understand it. This brings it down here. This is your heart. Oh boy. This is your heart, right? So it's actually internalizing it for you as you evaluate. And these two things, these are important, okay? I will say it till the cows come home. You need to understand where you're going and you need to evaluate how that is going to work for you. This next one is admittedly the most difficult because if you can get these two things done in a day, this one is going to take some time and it's going to take that courage that you've been building by doing this work. So this one is infiltrate. Infiltrate. This is going to be the most meaningful piece. We're going to give this one a little red star over here. Focus on this one. You can get those done rather quickly. This one will take some time because you're going from head to heart to action. So we're gonna make a little bicep here, right? Oh boy. This is your bicep. This is strong. Okay. When you infiltrate, you are taking action. You are getting in there. All the planning, all the thinking, it's all great. Even the feeling, that's really important. It's all necessary. However, You must actually take action for any of this to come together. So, what I want you to do here is find the lowest barrier to entry. Now, again, what does that mean? It means get in there. Find a way to be part of these connections, part of these contacts that you're making. So, for me, because I was wanting to get into corporate leadership, my lowest barrier to entry was taking a step down from a leadership position that I was in into handling low level workers' comp claims. For Megan, she was wanting to get promoted. So her lowest barrier of entry was forcing herself to speak up in meetings that had people in them who could make the decisions on promotions. For you, it might be asking for that contact to give you another contact. You're not quite to your 6 degrees yet. You just made it to that first connection. Ask them who's next. Maybe it's actually meeting this person for coffee or meeting them at the office so you get a sense of what it feels like, what the essence of that building is, instead of just emailing them a list of questions and asking them to answer, right? You might even go so far as volunteering or even interning at that hospital or in that school or in any sort of organization that you're considering. The point is, you need to be in close proximity of people who are actually doing the work. Now, part of the reason why this is hard is because it's putting yourself out there. The other part of the reason is because it has a stigma around it. Okay. Now, you might call this one politics, right? Ugh, no one likes office politics. You might call it rubbing elbows. Again, it kind of has like an icky feel to it. Feels like brown nosing. It feels like just trying to figure out who you know, but it's important. You could also think of it with a little bit more of a positive. It's networking, right? Or if you're a little woo woo, it's manifestation. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. You have to do the work. You have to take the action to be able to get to the next step. You have to get more connections, ask more questions, get closer and closer to where you want to be and who you want to be. And pretty soon you will find yourself exactly where that is. Now, we're about to close this out, right? But I do want to just talk about one piece of pushback that I get so very often, and that is I'm not certified. And usually, not always, but the vast majority of the time, the answer is you don't need to be. Now, there's obviously going to be situations where you need more education, right? So, in your Google search and your LinkedIn search, look at the job titles that you're considering and what requirements do you see? Do you need a degree or a certification? And for some jobs, some industry shifts, you absolutely will, right? You're going to have to enhance those technical skills. You can't go off teaching without a teaching certificate. You can't go off practicing medicine without some sort of education in that realm. However, if you're looking for internal roles, even diverse ones like moving from sales to HR, IT to project management, you likely need less technical education than you think. So, if you need the letters after your name, if you need the technical degree, go get it. But that doesn't mean that you're dead in the water before you have it. Do all of these things before you get the letters after your name. Taking these steps is going to enhance your network, help you apply what you're learning while you're getting that education. And it's going to be the silver bullet for building experience while you're building credentials. Remember, your development will never end with getting a certificate. That is always only the beginning, regardless of the preferred education level. I'm sure there are other required skills, right? And this is how you gain them. When you look at that job description and you see things like self starter, adaptable to change, resilient in problem solving, those are character traits. And you can develop those and demonstrate them to your growing connections as you follow every one of these steps. All right. I fully expect that you are getting off of this video and going to do the work. Start with your head, move to your heart, and then to your strength. Get into action today. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it was an encouraging kick in the pants that you needed to take that next step for yourself and share it with a friend who needs that little bit of strong encouragement as well.